is the time when it all goes down. This is the time when it all goes down.
Even though the coronavirus has us down, we're definitely not out, and the grind don't stop. He's B. Reed. I'm KP. Welcome to Fumblerooski Football Podcast. Reed, how you living, bro?
Good, man. Excited about all this football news. Some type of entertainment.
I'm telling you, bro, man. NFL free agency has single-handedly kept me alive this week. That and Pringles, bro. A lot going on, man, to take us off all the things happening in the world, man. Let's just go ahead and get into it, man. A lot of moving and shaking in the NFL this week. A lot of shock trades, a lot of shock releases, and also generational talents leaving one place, starting anew in another, man. Let's just go ahead, break it down division by division. Let's go ahead and start with the AFC West division of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of moves being made there.
Well, the Chiefs, they hadn't made a lot of moves. I mean, I think the loss of Kendall Fuller, they lost the defensive end. They don't have any big losses, and they hadn't had any big signings. I mean, you got the older players like they picked up Terrell Suggs, LaShawn McCoy, but we can all see he was on his last leg. I just don't see a lot of like key losses for them. Darren Lee, Claiborne, Demarcus Robinson, like they haven't done anything, but they didn't have a lot of holes. They were a relatively young team anyways, so I don't think they needed to be active in this free agency.
And so, I think the most interesting thing about the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs weren't too active, but every other team in the division was very active this week.
Yeah,
very
active. That's true. You got to catch the champs, and you can see teams like the Raiders. You know what I mean? They have been extremely active this offseason. Chargers, not really. I mean, Chargers are kind of standing pat like they're the Chiefs. That's kind of mind-boggling to me that they're not making more moves. I mean, they let Phillip Rivers go. They said they're just going to roll with Tyrod Taylor. Melvin Gordon's gone. They re-signed Eckler to an extension. So, I mean, that's maybe a lateral move. They got that other running back. Is it Justin Jackson, I believe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so they seem comfortable with the running backs. They signed Brian Bulaga. They signed some defense, Chris Harris and Linval Joseph. So you know what they're going to do. They're starting Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, they're going to run the ball. Unlike a team like you said, the Raiders, who are just signing massive amounts of people.
And it seems like half of my Dallas Cowboys became Las Vegas Raiders. I almost said Oakland Raiders, but they are officially the Las Vegas Raiders now. So Jason Witten, to name a few, Jeff Heath. So you got Jason Witten for the veteran leadership at the tight end position. You have Jeff Heath at safety. I believe they just picked up Nelson Agholor from your Philadelphia Eagles. So
trash.
Eagles fans are definitely happy about that departure. But John Gruden, man, he's been willing to deal, and I believe they still have a few first-round picks left over from some of the big trades and acquisitions they made a few years back. Dylan Amari Cooper, Dylan Khalil Mack. So
the Mack trade, it was the big one. That's where a lot of those first came from.
Now, one thing that really kind of piqued my antennas here, man, they picked up Marcus Mariota from the Tennessee Titans. So that has to make you wonder, should Derek Carr be looking over his shoulder? Now, I know that Derek Carr's been a little up and down from an MVP-esque season a couple of years ago. You know, he breaks the fibula in the playoffs. He's not really that same Derek Carr. He's kind of a shell of himself. Then you bring in a young gun like Marcus Mariota, whose career didn't get really off to the best start in Tennessee. But, you know, he has a chance to kind of, reinvent himself under John Gruden. So what do you think, in your opinion, what do you think is happening in John Gruden's mind with the two quarterbacks that they have, Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota?
I think this is one of the best spots that Marcus Mariota could have fell in, because one thing that he appreciates, which is John Gruden, is he just really wants a game manager. So a guy like Marcus Mariota, who can read the field, go through one or two reads and just run the ball and keep on the 5 yards, because he really just wants to run the ball and play hard defense. That Raiders defense wasn't bad last year. They added Carl Nassib from Hard Knocks fame, was on the Browns. I actually kind of like that dude. Corey Littleton was a great linebacker for the Rams. So they bulked up the defense. They have a nice running game with the kid they drafted last year. So I just think they're really looking for a game manager. And it does say, I believe Derek Carr needs to look over his shoulder because Derek Carr is a pocket passer. But when that's not working, you can put in Marcus Mariota to just get those 4 or 5 yards using his legs. If anything, that's a surprise for the defense. I think by the end of the season, you see Marcus Mariota starting. And I think you see next season they ship Derek Carr out.
Now, let's stay focused in the AFC West for a second now. Switching gears over back to the Denver Broncos. So we mentioned in talking about the Chargers earlier. The Chargers trade, or did they release Melvin Gordon?
They just didn't resign him.
All right. So they didn't take the 5th-year option. He goes to the Denver Broncos. In a not so shocking move, the Denver Broncos also cut quarterback Joe Flacco, man. I don't know what the hell happened with Joe. He was balling out of control when they made that Super Bowl run. He got the bread. He got his chips, got his stacks, and that productivity dipped like a thought at the club, bruh.
He was just a game manager, man. He was fool's gold.
He was fool's gold, man. And one thing I always said about smoking Joe Flacco, man, once he went to a team with a subpar defense, he got exposed, man, because the defense, that legendary Baltimore Ravens defense, with T. Suggs, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, they all bailed him out at times. They kept that team afloat. Yeah. Defense wins championships. The Ravens always got bailed out by the defense. Joe Flacco, to your point, is a game manager, but he's just a shell of himself now. Now, in your opinion, now you are big facts, so we come to you for this knowledge and the big facts. Do you think the Denver Broncos go down the path with Drew Lock, or do they try to pick up one of these key free agents out here, maybe a Cam Newton, maybe a Jameis Winston? What's in the mind of Big Fats Reed when it comes to that?
I think Elway, I don't think that he's comfortable with his quarterback situation. I think he's looking on the trade market, but what Elway has also shown is he's looking for a discount. He's looking for a veteran quarterback that can come in there and not make a lot of mistakes and that can lead his offense. And I think that because he's looking for a discount on quarterbacks, he has the luxury because he does have Drew Lock, he was a second round pick, right? Or third? I believe Lock was a second.
He was a second, but I'm not sure, man. I'm not. Somebody will fact check us in the comments, so I'm not worried about it.
So you got a young quarterback like Drew Lock. If you play your cards like you're okay with going in the season, you see all these quarterbacks are hitting the market. Like Cam Newton might get released. Why would you jump to make any conclusions right now with the quarterback situation? I don't think if you're John Elway, you do anything until Cam Newton's situation is clear. Because if he comes on the market, I mean, you played against him in the Super Bowl. Yeah, Von Miller dominated him, but that's still a quarterback that recently in the last 2 or 3 years took a team to the Super Bowl. That's the type of player that John Elway is looking for. He's looking for someone that can win. And again, just like a John Gruden old school, somebody that can move the offense in different ways. You know what I mean? Cam Newton's a good quarterback. I don't love those receivers, but putting him with a running game with Melvin Gordon and Lindsey, that would be really good for him.
And so, Denver defensively, I think they still got a lot, man. You know, on the interior line, man, you got Von Miller, of course. You got Bradley Chubb. Definitely some holes in the secondary. Now, I believe, didn't they just get the dude from Jacksonville, CJ? Man, I can't think of his name right now, but didn't they just get him?
No, they got they only signed Melvin Gordon. I don't think they signed any corners.
They had another big signing. I want to say
they let go of Chris Harris. They
right.
signed a guard, I saw, and they signed Melvin Gordon. So they signed Melvin Gordon, but I hadn't seen them pick up anybody in the secondary. Now, that's a big part of their defense is was it Bradley Chubb?
Mm-hmm.
That defense was coming on in the middle part of the season until he went down with his injury. Before he went down with his injury, him and Von Miller were getting together and they were making some plays. So I'm interested to see how they'll do without Chris Harris. They tried to let him go before, it didn't work. Now he just left and went to the Chargers. I don't think this is a great team, man. You need a game-changing quarterback to fix this team. Otherwise, you have talent on the offense. You got a good running game, a fairly decent defense, even though I think that secondary is going to struggle a bit without Chris Harris. But without a quarterback, man, it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You got to have somebody that can move those chains, and they just hadn't put a quarterback behind there. Even when they had Peyton Manning, the defense was just so good it compensated. But they hadn't had a competent quarterback in a while, man.
So I got to look this up, man, because it's going to bother me if I don't look it up now. See, Broncos free agency. I could have swore they picked up one of the starters from Jacksonville, man. off that Saxonville
missed it.
defense. I don't know, man. Here, let's look this up. Let's get.
Oh, you talking about AJ Boye?
Yeah, that's right. There you go. See, that's what we
Yeah,
call you, big facts, man. Look, you coming through in the clutch, bro.
AJ, I don't remember seeing he signed or did they trade? They
I think
traded
they
for
traded
him, right?
for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They did. Yeah. Yeah. So they traded for AJ Boye. So I guess that's why they let go of Chris Harris. I mean, you get a younger player. I don't know why Jacksonville is dismantling their secondary. I know they had a bad year, but we'll get into that when we get into the AFC.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. But it looks like, the Raiders definitely getting a lot of centerpieces, which I don't know if you call them centerpieces because they were second or third rate players from other teams.
Corey Littleton wasn't. Corey Littleton was a beast.
And I will say this about Jeff Heath. Jeff Heath is okay. He can hit. He tries his best to cover. But I think, he could be something. If you put him back there with John Abrams, I don't think he'll be starting, but you never know. As far as Jason Witten, I really think that Jason Witten's best years are behind him. I think that this is just kind of laying into coaching for him is more of the locker room presence when it comes to Jason Witten versus the on-field productivity. I think he's going to be a mentor to the current number 83 out there. Yeah, Waller. He'll be a mentor to him, and I think he'll coach him up and help develop him into an all-pro. So sad to see him go as a Cowboys fan, but at the end of the day, man, Blake Jarwin was definitely going to be the TE1 moving forward, man. So it is what it is.
Blake Jarwin, he should have been the TE1 this year.
He should have. I thought Jason Witten should have never came back. He should have just stayed in the booth.
I always liked Jarwin. I thought that they stunted his growth by a little bit by putting him in this year. But yeah, I agree, man. I think that Jason Witten's only going out there to be a locker room presence and teach Waller some of the tricks. He really wants to run that offense through Waller. And that's another reason why I think Mariota is a big threat to Derek Carr, because when Mariota was there with Delaney Walker, he leaned on him heavily. And if they can do that, if they can lean on Waller heavily to go over the middle, they'd have weapons that can take it off over the top. Like Tyrell Williams has proven that he can make a big play over the top. You had Nelson Aguilar. He can also, it's 50-50 if he'll catch it, but he can get open. You know what I mean? So you don't know what you can get. You'll get a one-handed catch in triple coverage, or you'll get a wide open drop with Nelson Aguilar, but he'll get open. So I think if Witten can teach Waller some of those tricks, Mariota could be the play, man, because if they could have just kept that offense steady and moving with the defense they had last year, they could have been better. Now, I guess the biggest question about all this we're talking about with the AFC West and all these free agent moves when we talk about conferences, my question to you is, has any team gotten better than the Chiefs in this division?
It's hard for me to say, man. I don't think they have. Now, I say one team with the most upside would definitely be the Las Vegas Raiders, because they have a lot of draft capital, which they can leverage. They can fill a lot of key pieces. But honestly, man, I mean, the Chiefs are worlds ahead of everybody else in the AFC West. It is going to be like that for the foreseeable future, unless we see maybe Denver or even LA make a move for a premier quarterback. Now, we know, to your point earlier, Anthony Lynn says he's sticking with the homie Tyrod. Denver, we don't really know what they're going to do, because Joe Flacco was the starter, or Joe Flacco got injured, but Drew Luck started for a little bit, but he has some struggles there, and I don't even know who the third string QB is. So I mean, it's really just, at the end of the day, Kansas City has that division on lock. I don't foresee them being knocked off of that for a long time, man.
I thought for sure you'd be calling for Brandon Allen to be re-signed and take it over.
Nah, man, I'm a realist, man. I can't be a homer, man. We are sports journalists. We gotta call it like we see it down the middle, bro.
I got you, man. Yeah, man, I agree with you, man. I just think the Chiefs, their offense is so far ahead of everyone. They still hadn't, made up for some of the losses that the Chiefs had on defense. End of the day, that's really not Andy Reid's thing, and that's really not their thing. Like, defense is just kind of hold them and contain them to around 28 to 35 points and let Patrick Mahomes do his thing. As long as Patrick Mahomes and Tyrell Hill is coming back, and that they can get a running back in the draft, they re-signed Damian. What's running back?
Damian Williams. Yep. Who should have been Super Bowl MVP, if we're being honest. He should have been Super Bowl MVP. But that's another story. I don't know about that.
No, that's got to go to Patrick Mahomes. But we'll get into that another day, because that's a ridiculous thought.
It is. He brought him back from the break, man. He brought him back
Yeah,
from the
but
break.
man,
But anywho, moving right along,
he
man.
played a good role like he's supposed to.
Yeah, he did his job. But moving on, man. I guess now we can start to transition. Let's see. We're in the AFC West. Let's go to the East, man. So this division getting very interesting, man. New England Patriots, Tom Brady, divorce, Splitsville, man. Tom Brady packed his bags, went down south to Tampa Bay. For the first time in a long time, man, a lot of New England Patriots fans are feeling uncertain out here. They shook. They shook, as they say, man.
I don't see no backup plans on the roster either.
No one does, man. I mean, you're going to go to Jarrett Stidham. Is Jarrett Stidham going to be the heir apparent? Or do you look for answers in free agency or the draft? Bill B, what's the plan, baby? What's the plan?
So, this is the thing, man. I think Jarrett Stidham, I always said I never understood why Jarrett Stidham went to Auburn. Because that's not his style of play. That kid was a gunslinger at Baylor. He has an arm. He can throw it. And I think what happened is they saw enough of Jarrett Stidham, like from jump in the preseason. He kind of was like Gardner Minshew. He had a really good preseason last year. And I think that what they see a lot of the tools that they had with Tom Brady, and they believe that they can stick him in and be successful. Of course, I think they'll go get some type of veteran backup, maybe bring Brian Hoyer back. Hoyer, he was really good in that system. He's shown that he can win in the Patriots system. But you have him as a backup to Stidham. I personally think they go with Stidham. And it came down to a point for me is they were probably tired of choosing Tom Brady over these younger prospects, because they could have had a insurance plan in the bag a couple of years. Jimmy G, Jacoby Brissett, you know what I mean? They had a couple of guys back there that they could have used. I think they're choosing Jarrett Stidham over Brady.
So I think one of the names you just mentioned is very interesting, and I'm going to tell you why. Jacoby Brissett. Now, he is a player, NC State, so he's a local product from here. Now, I'm not from Raleigh, but he's a local product, so a lot of people, a lot of positive things I've heard about him. He knows Bill Belichick's system. I think he would be the safe bet, but I see what the Indianapolis Colts are doing by signing Phillip Rivers, and then they say that they don't want to depart with Jacoby Brissett because it makes him valuable almost. You can get something for him. You know, you're not going to trade him, even though in reality, if they did trade him to the Patriots, he might be worth a 5th or a 6th round pick. But if you kind of put that luster to him, he could be a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. So, do we see the return of Jacoby Brissett to Foxborough? I don't know. It depends on, you know.
Well, I'll say no just because, like, you say that, but I feel like they actually believe in Jacoby Brissett because they've been saying this same high price, he's untradeable. Even before Andrew Luck got hurt last year preseason, everyone thought that was the time to trade Jacoby Brissett. And they held on and held on. I think they actually believe in Jacoby Brissett. I just don't think that they believe he's quite ready yet.
And he signed a 2-year, $30 million deal, fully guaranteed. And the most impressive part about that, the man's his own agent. So he bet on himself, man, and got it done. Get the bag, Jacoby Brissett, get the bag. But
I just don't think the Colts will let him go for cheap, and the Patriots are notoriously cheap. Maybe they're thinking that, hey, we give Jarrett Stidham a chance this season, and if he doesn't work out, more than likely Jacoby Brissett is going to hit the open market next year because you got Phillip Rivers for a 1-year contract, and then Jacoby will be coming up on his contract, so you devalued him. I doubt he's going back to the Colts.
And outside of quarterback, I mean, they got a lot of holes, man. Kyle Van Noy goes to the division rival.
Yeah.
So that's one hole on defense. And then they had a lot of other moves being made too. I believe, I'm not sure if Jamie Collins was still playing for him. I don't think so. I know he used to.
No.
But
he left. Jamie Collins left, and they lost Danny Shelton, who they traded for the Browns last offseason.
Yep.
They weren't able to re-sign him. I think Danny Shelton, either Jamie Collins or I think Jamie Collins went to the Lions.
He did.
Back to
so he's
to the
reunited
Pat
with
Patricia
Matt
offer. Matt Patricia, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of holes, man. But, you know, the New England Patriots are coached by one of the greatest football coaches to ever live. So I think we find out this season, the age-old question, is it Tom Brady or is it the Belichick system? And what's going to be the aftermath of that? Do you think if they have a couple of bad years off of this, which I don't know, I don't really see it happening because if Bill built this from scratch, he can build it again and he can plug in pieces because there's still some folks out there. Now, there are no Tom Brady level quarterbacks out there on the open market. I think the closest that you get to that is maybe Cam Newton. I don't think there were some early rumors that maybe they look at Andy Dalton, but I think they're going to move on from that. So I think the only other MVP type of player that's out there is Cam Newton. Or do you look towards the draft? We have a very quarterback-rich draft that the Patriots feel like wheeling and dealing and trading up, which they're not a team that usually does that. But if you go by their history, they can find a gem in the later rounds. I mean, let's be honest, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick out of the University of Michigan. Do you find someone that is like that in this year's draft? Perhaps, I hate to say it, but let's say if Jake Fromm falls down there. I know his game is a little raw. Yeah. With Bill Belichick's tutelage and teaching, could he make him another gem, sort of like what they discovered with Tom Brady?
I mean, I don't know. I think if you're going to go the Tom Brady route, I think you take your chance with Jarrett Stidham. I don't know if you go and draft another quarterback. You can only carry 2, on game day. You're not going to take up 3 rosters with quarterbacks. I'm fairly sure that their emergency is Brian Hoyer because he spent so much time in the offense. He's something that can just balance them out for the year. But the one thing I respect about Bill Belichick, you can see what he's been doing over the past 2 years, 3 years. He's building up for a power run game. I mean, Sony Michel wasn't used like he was supposed to. He was terrible last year, but the first year when they really leaned on him 27, 28 times a game, you have they got the dude from Bama. They drafted him last year, had a crazy offseason, but then they didn't really even activate him during any games. I think they're going to go a power run game and kind of trust in the defense. That defense is young. If Belichick doesn't do anything else, he gets a lot of credit for Tom Brady and finding him, but what he really does is he finds those off-brand defensive players and turn them into stars.
And people forget, man, Bill Belichick's bread and butter was defense, man. He was a 2-time Super Bowl champion as the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants under Bill Parcells. So a lot of people forget that he cut his teeth in this league on defense.
And there's a lot of players that play for him that come into this league mediocre and get paid after they leave him. And that's the positions that he really doesn't respect because he rarely pays his defensive players. He lets them walk and he just plugs and plays and replaces them. And now you got another big name, Jamie Collins, that replaced Brandon Spikes. You know what I mean? And they go other places and then they're nothing. So I really respect what he does on defense. And at the end of the day, I think he's going to put his trust in his defense and that power run game with Sony Michel. And, man, I cannot think of Alabama's running back. Is it Damian Williams? No, it's not Damian.
Well, I know, Sony Michel's there from Georgia.
Yeah, but he was there with Josh Jacobs. It was Josh Jacobs and the other one. Man, I'm going to have to go look it up. But, yeah, they drafted him last year, and they got him as a steal. Everyone thought it was a steal in the draft because a lot of people compared him to Nick Chubb. The Sony Michel came and blew out everything in the draft, but the Nick Chubb was just solid, and he came through for the Browns. Well, this is the same way Damian Harris for the Alabama. Yep. He was the 4-year starter. I mean, you had Josh Jacobs there for 3 years who played, but he never took Damian Harris's starting position. And the Patriots had him sitting last year on the bench just waiting. I think they're going to go to power run game, man.
Yep, and I think from a defensive standpoint, I mean, yes, they had those two leave, Collins and Van Noy, but you still, they re-up on the McCourties. So Devin McCourty, re-up on him. All-Pro. I mean, they have a lot of weapons back there. You still have Dietrich Wise from the University of Arkansas on the front line, and you still got Dante Hightower. So there's a lot of talent still on that side of the ball. I think so. The only 2 quarterbacks on the roster right now are Jarrett Stidham and Cody Kessler. Cody Kessler being the USC product. So
yeah, he's definitely gone.
They got to get someone. I think a veteran. Either if you get Hoyer back, but I think maybe they look in free agency. Maybe. It just depends.
I just don't see them drafting someone. I think if they do something, it's going to be in free agency, but I don't think the quarterback market moves until Cam Newton moves. I think he's holding up the quarterback market because if they release him like being reported, he's by far and away the best quarterback on the market. Then it becomes who trusts him, who's going to pay him.
Right.
Now, I personally think that he's going to be outpriced for the Patriots because they don't like paying their quarterback that much money. That's why I think they'll end up with a Brian Hoyer or Andy Dalton, somebody that they can get relatively cheap because they don't pay quarterbacks. Tom Brady only made $15 million last year. You know what I mean? Like every other year, Tom Brady hasn't made anywhere close to the top quarterbacks. This year he signed for 2 years, $25 million, and he's still like in the bottom half of the quarterbacks. You know what I mean? So
I mean,
I just don't see them paying anybody, bro.
and it's just you got to know your worth, man. I think he knew his worth. I think Robert Kraft knew his worth. But at the end of the day, Bill Belichick's the GM and the head coach, so he's going to make those football decisions. I think a lot of people are thinking, man, that this might be the beginning of the end for the relationship between Mr. Kraft and Bill Belichick if this goes wrong. Now, if it doesn't,
43.
yeah, if it doesn't, then, without a shadow of a doubt, Bill Belichick's the greatest coach that ever lived. You got to put him above Lombardi.
Yeah, but I mean, is this a risky move? You didn't sign a 43-year-old quarterback to $50 million guaranteed. I mean, it doesn't really feel like a risk here. I mean, it's more nostalgia and what you did for me, even though he does keep them competitively winning. But let's be honest, the last couple of years, Tom Brady hadn't really just been putting his team on his back and winning. Now, look, the game against the Eagles, he did have a great game, but I think that Bill Belichick feels he can get a player like Andy Dalton in there and just fix him to do whatever he needs.
And I think it was, it was kind of almost future-proofing anyway, because to your point, Tom Brady is on the downside of his career. This isn't a Tom Brady from 5 years ago, from 10 years ago. This will be a 43-year-old Tom Brady who showed some regression during this season. Yeah. So I think, Bill...
Like fatigue, too.
A lot.
Like he got tired.
He wasn't the normal Tom Brady that you see. Now, I know one person that's going to be super upset, overrated as Julian Edelman. Definitely.
Yeah.
This is just the opinions of KP on Fumblerooski Football Podcast, available on Too Smart Network, by the way. But I just always thought that Julian Edelman was one of those receivers who had one big game, one good game at the right time. And he's serviceable, but he's a system wideout. He's just like Wes Welker, he's just a piece in the overall
Chris
scheme.
Hogan.
Exactly. Danny Amendola, the list goes on and on and on. And it's just, in my humble opinion, I think he is going to suffer the most off of Tom Brady's departure, depending upon who they get.
Now, I will say the one safety net they have is traditionally the NFC East has been trash.
Well, the AFC East has been trash.
I mean, the AFC East has been complete trash. Now, the one thing I'll say about this offseason, I feel like the AFC East, a lot of these teams feel like there's a chance now. I mean, you seeing the Dolphins spending big money. I don't know if it's going to work, but you're spending big monies on Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, Eric Flowers. You know what I'm saying? These players that they bring in, even a Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard is still 25 years old, and they got him on a cheap contract. Camu Grugier-Hill came from Philly. He's up and coming, very fast linebacker. You got him for cheap. And the players that they lost were like, oh, they still have draft picks. I love what the Dolphins are doing because at the end of the season, that Dolphins team got better. And a lot of times you don't see teams get better. And that Dolphins team was competitive towards the end of the season.
And one thing I'm happy about, they stuck it out with Brian Flores, former New England Patriots defensive coordinator, first-time coach. You see this happen all the time, like with the Arizona Cardinals, for example. They fired one coach a year into the job, but I'm really glad that they stuck with Brian Flores because I think those players believe in his system. Mm-hmm. They believe in him, and they rallied around him at the end, and they rattled off a couple of wins to keep from picking number one overall. Now, this is just kind of hearsay. This is nothing that's in reality. Now, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, do you reach out to Cam Newton and his people to see if you could parlay him come to Miami?
I don't know if I would want to trade for him though. I think that if he hits the open market, Dolphins have so much money, so much opportunity that I think they have the best chance of getting him of anybody. I mean, I'm not saying Cam Newton's selfish, but I mean, everybody knows the resume of Cam Newton, right? Well, you throw 34, 35 million at him, he gonna say no?
But you look at this. You look at what they have. Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen. Enough said, man. I mean, Cam Newton, a Cam Newton that's a shell of himself is an upgrade over what they currently got. So, I mean, if you get a full, healthy Cam Newton, I think that at least bumps that team up to 7 or 8 wins off the bat before they even hit the field. And then
I think Jordan Howard gives them a couple of wins because Jordan Howard is still a very good running back. He showed it with the Eagles. Yes.
And so I think if you spend your draft capital wisely, if you get a Cam Newton now, a lot of people, we're hearing rumblings, hey, you take Cam Newton, you sign him if he gets released, and then you take maybe Tua Tagovailoa at the 5. Now, that will be, a decent strategy to prepare for the future because we don't know where Tua Tagovailoa is with the hip. Apparently at the NFL Combine, everything was a go. They said he's progressing normally, he's healing. Now, one thing, with everything being shut down to COVID-19, do you know if any of these guys are going to come in shape? Has he been rehabbing properly? Has he been working out? You don't know. But I think, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm looking at Cam Newton, and then, I maybe take Tua Tagovailoa at the 5, and then I believe they got multiple picks because of the Kenny Stills and Laramie Tunsil trade to the Houston Texans.
Laramie Tunsil from Houston. What the fuck is Houston doing? But we'll get to that.
Goddamn.
but yeah, I mean, I agree with you, man. I like the moves they made. A lot of these moves were just on defense, right? So they worked on their defense and building their defense up to stop people, because that defense was terrible last year. Now, like you said, if you get a player like Cam Newton, you're already miles ahead of a Ryan Fitzpatrick or a Josh Rosen. That's going to settle you down right there. You got a good run game because they ran the ball well. They have all the weapons, bro. They look like a terrible team, but all you need is stability at the quarterback and a little better defense, which I think these free agent moves upgraded. At the receiving corps, man, they got Devontae Parker, who showed a breakout season with a new coach after he got away from Adam Gase. You actually see that he is a dominant player from Louisville. You got Preston Williams, who they stole in the draft, who has like the measurements to be Megatron. You know what I mean? Like, they have Albert Wilson. They have a lot of good talent on offense, and adding Jordan Howard just makes it better. If that defense can be better, they have a chance to win the division. I know I sound crazy, but that's how crazy this division is. It's not a good division. You take Tom Brady out of it, you don't know what you're going to get from the Patriots.
Well, I think it's anybody's game, man. And one team that definitely made a major splash of free agency, even off of one transaction, were the Buffalo Bills, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you take a playoff team from a year ago, you add I'm blanking on his name. You add Stephon Diggs to an already pretty decent team, and that gives Josh Allen another deep threat, man. I mean, that's an upgrade, a huge upgrade.
Yeah, to add Diggs with Brown with that big arm that Josh Allen has, I mean, I think that this is a dynamic team. That defense is already legit. We know that. We've seen that. We saw how great their defense. They're just waiting for their quarterback to grow with their defense. And you hope your quarterback catches up to your defense. You know what I mean? You don't want the defense to be so good until they age and your quarterback then gets good. But I think they put a lot of weapons around. I think they put a lot of weapons around here, man. Adding Diggs, even though I don't love Diggs and he can be very, very inconsistent, a lot of that may be contributed to Kirk Cousins. You know what I mean? Kirk Cousins does not always see the whole field. He kind of get his favorite targets, the most reliable receivers, and that's who he throws to get his completion percentage up. You got a gunslinger like Josh Allen that's ready to use his leg, and just let that thing rip. That's why you saw John Brown was so successful in his offense. I think Stephon Diggs can be very, very successful in his offense and playing good defense, running the ball hard, and then throwing a couple deep shots. That can get you to the Super Bowl easily. So I like this Bills team too. They're more proven than the Dolphins, so I would pick them to win the division. I think they did get better than the Patriots, but I really love what the Dolphins are doing. It's just going to depend on what they do with the quarterback situation.
So I think they got a legit shot. I think that the culture in Buffalo is a lot different than the culture in Minnesota. You know, Mike Zimmer, old school, hard-nosed football coach, doesn't take a lot of mess. I think that Stephon Diggs may have had a rift in that system. And then, of course, you know, I think he may have clashed behind the scenes with Kirk Cousins. We don't know. He was being overshadowed by Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, so he gets a fresh start in Buffalo, and I think that's going to be one of the best places for him, man.
He definitely wasn't getting outshadowed by Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph does nothing on an everyday matter.
Well, but, he did something when it counted to send the New Orleans Saints home in their own place. Let's see.
True.
Shit, what did New York Jets do besides suck ass? Nothing to see there.
I hate the Jets. I hate Adam Gase. They've given Adam Gase way too much freedom. He made all those signings last year. Well, I guess he didn't, the GM. So that's what happens when you have a bad organization. You put a GM that's not in agreement with the coach. The GM makes all these decisions to sign all these people, and the coach don't even like the people. He don't even like Le'Veon Bell. Robbie Anderson is a free agent. They hadn't re-signed him yet. Whenever Darnold was there, Robbie Anderson looked like a great player. I don't know what the Jets are doing, man.
Man, Adam Gase owes his whole life to Peyton Manning. That's the only negative thing about Peyton Manning's Super Bowl run with the Denver Broncos. Adam Gase was the offensive coordinator, and Peyton Manning made him look like $1 million, and now we all have to suffer. Well, I don't have to suffer because I'm not a fan of the New York Jets.
But you can just look at what he did with the Dolphins, bro. He destroyed that organization. Then he leaves, and they literally look better. Like, they're playing better. Devontae Parker looks like a real receiver. Now he's in this offense, and Le'Veon Bell looks like he doesn't know how to play football.
I don't know, man. It's a toxic environment, man. The Jets and the Knicks have a lot of similarities right now, and that is not a good – football is just not good all around in the state of New York, man, from an NFL perspective.
It's not great.
Better than to me.
Danny Dimes, though.
Hey, man. Danny Dimes. Moving right along, man. Let's see. We want to go north or south, man?
Let's look at the north, man. Just because I think it'll be a quick overview of the north. There's not a ton of moves. Most of the moves were made by the Browns, which they should have made moves. I mean, I like that they went and got a right tackle because that offensive line was horrible. I kind of sneaky like that they got Austin Hooper because that is the type of tight end that Baker Mayfield needs. And that's the type of tight end that he had at OU, and that's the type of tight end that he leans on that can make the offense better. Baker can throw to the outside, but he much prefers to throw to the middle of the field and with a good run game. So I like that. I don't like that they lost Schobert and Kirksey. I think they were big in the linebacking core. I think that they're not paying enough attention to their defense, which was terrible last year, and they should have been good. I think that fact alone is going to keep them in third place because they're going to be better than the Bengals, but I don't think they'll be good as Pittsburgh or the Ravens.
Definitely not the Ravens, man. I mean, the Ravens just pick up Calais Campbell from Jacksonville, which I think was one of the smartest moves in free agency. I mean, you already have such a dominant team offensively with Lamar Jackson leading the way there. They did lose Hayden Hurst to the Atlanta Falcons, but, I mean, still,
they got Michael Pierce, too, on the defensive line.
Exactly. So, I mean, the Baltimore Ravens are looking even more dangerous defensively, man. Most of their starters are all coming back. I think they run away with this division. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers,
I like Pittsburgh.
So they made some moves. You know, Big Ben is back healthy again. They did pick up Eric Ebron. So That's a good little move for them.
And I like the receivers. I mean, you can't judge those receivers by the quarterbacks that they had. They literally didn't have anybody playing quarterback. You put Big Ben back there with Deontay Johnson and Juju, I think that is going to be a legit passing offense this season because Deontay Johnson is very good. He just didn't have somebody that can get him the ball. And you also got the boy from OSU. What's his name? Man. Go ahead. I'll find his name.
Come on, man. OSU's your school, man. You got to know that.
I know, right?
Come on now. You the Okie from Muskogee, bro. You slipping, bro.
I don't really fuck with him like that, man. James Washington.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I knew you wouldn't let me down, bro. I knew you wouldn't let me down. But I think, definitely Pittsburgh will be a better team, man. I mean, they got an all-world coach in Mike Tomlin, man. I was really impressed, even though last season kind of went off the rails for them. They never really gave up on Mike Tomlin. I mean, as an organization, they believe in Mike Tomlin. I always thought I know a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans. I mean, sometimes they can get on your nerves, but they really don't know how great they have it with Mike Tomlin, man.
Yeah,
I mean, they talk about wanting to get rid of him all the time, but I mean, you've had two great coaches in the last 20 years, man. Appreciate him while he's here because he's not always going to be there and y'all are going to go start sucking ass and you're going to be disappointed. But anyway.
You get spoiled. Spoiled. That's what happens.
I think Juju Smith-Schuster bounces back this year. I think he has a really good year. I think James Conner can bounce back as well as Ben Roethlisberger. So I can see those two teams battling it out for AFC North supremacy.
Conner just got to stay healthy, man. Conner's really good. He just can't stay on the field. If he could stay on the field with Big Ben, that would be a very, very dangerous offense.
However, I do think that Pittsburgh needs to start looking towards the future. Now, I think if you go out and you get a QB like a Jameis Winston, you sit him behind Ben Roethlisberger, I think that could really be advantageous for him and the team because I will say this one thing, and I know we're going to talk about Jameis a little bit later, but I really think that Jameis Winston could have benefited from not being thrown into the fire so quick during his rookie year, him and Mariota. So I think if Jameis gets a chance to learn the system, learn under Mike Tomlin, learn under Ben Roethlisberger, I think that might be able to give a resurgence to his career, man. I think Pittsburgh will be a good spot for him.
I mean, maybe. The problem I have with Jameis is, I mean, people say that for quarterbacks that like bad. You know what I mean? He never really progressed. Like, you can throw a quarterback in the fire. Carson Wentz was thrown in the fire too. He looked terrible. There's been a lot of quarterbacks thrown in the fire that get better at progressions. The problem with Jameis Winston is he has all the tools that you can think of. Like, he's had games where he looked like he could be an all-pro quarterback, but he has bad decision making. Like, irrepressible bad decision making where even if you're an offensive coordinator, you're like, how did you even throw it there? You know what I mean? 30 interceptions. It literally looks like he's trying to throw it to the other team sometimes.
Hey, bro.
And if
he had LASIK, man, I'm gonna get a homie a chance, man. He had LASIK this offseason, bro. He's seeing with 20/20 vision, man. He's seeing with 20/20 vision in 2020. I'm gonna give Jameis another chance, man.
Hey, you know what that got him? 30 for 30. He hit the 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions.
He the 30-30 club, huh, Reed?
30-30, man. You know what I'm saying? He the first. I don't know if he's the first, but he was awful, bro. And that team, that's what I said about, we're going to talk about that later, but that's why Tom Brady going there is so big, because that team is not bad. That team is full of weapons on the offense.
Hella weapons.
That defense is crazy. Like, that defense kept them in the game. Think about if your quarterback threw 30 interceptions. That literally means Jameis is sometimes throwing like 6 interceptions in a game, and they're still in it in the fourth quarter. Like, how good is your defense for you to still be in it and your quarterback threw 30 interceptions on the season?
It's crazy, man. But I think he fit in well there, man. I think that'd be a good look, man. So hopefully he can get together. Maybe they're thinking about that,
bro. Quit fighting for Jameis. That's a losing battle, man. That's like last year I put my name on Blake Bortles, man. So don't do it.
That was your mistake, bro. But I'm gonna try to roll with a brother, man. We all about black empowerment, man. we gotta help the boy out.
I can't fuck with Jameis, bro. Yeah. I can't do it.
Speaking of teams, we can't fuck with. We gonna go ahead and this is gonna be painful. And I got a little story behind this. So I got a cousin, man. Shout out to my cousin Jennifer, man, out of Houston, Texas. She's a humongous Texas fan. She texted me earlier in the day last week, ragging on my Cowboys, going back and forth. And then the unthinkable happened, man. DeAndre Nuck Hopkins gets traded by the worst general manager in the league, butt chin himself, Bill O'Brien.
Bro, how does he still have a job? I've been wondering this for years. Way before the D-Hop trade, I've been wondering, how does Bill O'Brien still have a job? Like, this dude makes the worst decision. He's good enough to win this trash division, and like at 8-8, 9-7, and then lose in the first round, and he still gets a lot of credit. Like, how do you let Nuck go? He has one of the best contracts in NFL history. He still has 3 years, $13 million apiece for 3 years. He's like a top 3 receiver.
Bro, 3 words came to mind when I heard about that. What the fuck? I mean,
and what the compensation?
Literally.
It's crazy.
You got Nuck for David Johnson, and then you have Todd Gurley available later in the week. That's crazy. That is just insane. I don't know what kind of pissing contest they got going on in Houston, man. They shouldn't have let the GM go that they had, because he definitely wasn't doing this horrible of a job. But man, it's mind-numbingly asinine that he would make that move. You're trading your second, arguably tied for first best player on the team. And now, if I'm Deshaun Watson, man, it's like you being almost thrown to the wolves, man. And will he want to leave in free agency if they don't tag him?
Bro, I feel like they were encouraged by Will Fuller's playoff performances because there were quadruple teams on DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like these people in Houston don't understand why Will Fuller was so open and getting 3 touchdowns a game.
I'm just going to say this. I didn't agree with Nuck Hopkins' Madden rating. That's neither here nor there, but he is one of the best wide receivers in football. You just gave Kyler Murray a major upgrade out there, man. And so I don't know what the thinking is. Maybe they think they could get like Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. I don't see either one of those guys being on the board once they pick. I don't know.
But even if you can, it's just bad business. The worst part about this business is you can't tell me that that's the best deal that you can get in this offseason. You can't tell me that there was no reason to even rush this trade. As I said, I'm saying the contract because if you look at the best receivers, Julio and Michael Thomas, they're making $20 million a year. Nurk, I don't care if he is going to demand a contract. He's under contract for 3 years right now. So even if you wanted to boost his salary this year just to keep him up to $25 million, all you got to do is push his guarantees forwards and deal with it next year. You're still under a 3-year contract. So even if you go into the trade market with a top 3 receiver under a contract that is super manageable, you can't tell me that there wasn't another team to give you more compensation. You telling me you got sold on David Johnson and a second?
Look,
Kenyon Drake just took David Johnson's position, and Kenyon Drake was widely considered a bum.
Exactly. And I had a lot of respect for Bill O'Brien, especially after him turning chicken salad from chicken shit at Penn State. Like, that was a tough time for that program. He stuck with him. He brought him back. He goes to the NFL, but ever since then, man, I mean, he's just been mediocre, man. He's like Jason Garrett with an ass for a chin almost.
Shit, I say Jason Garrett might be better.
If it wasn't for Deshaun Watson, I think he would have got fired a long time ago, man. And I think if the Houston Texans stumble and don't make the playoffs, he's gone.
But they kind of stumbled on Deshaun Watson. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if the Bears do the right thing and take Deshaun Watson, who they stuck with? Mitchell Trubisky?
Yeah.
Maybe?
I mean, if the disrespect against Deshaun Watson wouldn't have been unreal that year.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe they end up with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk, and I'm pretty sure that Bill O'Brien's drunk as hell making some of them decisions he's making down there. I don't see that.
No way they had the foresight to see that Patrick Mahomes was going to be a quality NFL quarterback with some of the decisions they made. I just don't see, man. They're just so – it seems like over the years they just so stuck on this run game. They want to play like David Johnson. David Johnson might be good. Like you saw Carlos Hyde struggle in Jacksonville, and then he struggled in Cleveland. But then he went to the Chiefs last year and looks like he resurrected his career. Because all they want to do is that downhill zone blocking running. That's not gonna win. You know what I'm saying? Now they get rid of Hopkins, like you don't need them. They're behind in games, or they're losing games and they have to catch up. Like the running game that's not what the NFL is anymore. You have to have versatile players. You have to be able to put points on the board. And I don't know how you do that with giving away one of your best receivers. You can't look at the draft and be like, I know Judy's gonna be better than Hop. Like there's no way you can predict it ever.
I mean, I'm literally on this podcast right here. I'm dumbfounded. I'm baffled at that decision he made. And you're wasting one of the best young players in the league with DeAndre Hopkins, man. I mean, you're just wasting him while he's in his prime, man. And he deserves better. He definitely deserves better.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm happy for DeAndre Hopkins because I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be crazy in this Arizona offense. Air raid with Kyler Murray, it's going to be stupid.
With Kyler Murray and you got Larry Legend on the other side?
Hey, you got all those speed receivers in the inside like Andy Isabella.
And let's be honest, it's a high possibility. I mean, I don't know if it's as high of a possibility now, but they could get CeeDee Lamb too. Because Kyler Murray was campaigning for CeeDee Lamb, even though I think they might want to bolster the offensive line a little bit so they keep Kyler Murray upright.
Nah, you got to remember where the coach comes from. The coach comes from Texas Tech. You know what I mean? CeeDee Lamb, you know what I'm saying? He ain't about no defense and no offensive line.
This nigga's playing Tecmo Ball. He's trying to score all the points.
Hey, he fucking around trade up for Judy and Lamb.
Shit, man. I mean, it's just, I don't know what Bill O'Brien's doing. I mean, he makes Jacksonville, man, look like the Kansas City Chiefs almost.
But in saying that, I mean, like I said with the other division, you got to look at the division. And the problem is he gets so much leeway because he wins the division so consistently. You look at the other moves that these other teams made, and they don't make me feel great about any of those moves. I mean, Jacksonville, they struggled. Yeah, they signed Schobert, a linebacker, but they haven't done much else. You know what I mean? They franchise tag Unique, but word is he might get traded. You trade Nick Foles out. Gardner Minshew was good, but you never really gave Nick Foles a chance. They are young, but, I mean, I don't feel like they're that much better. You got the Colts. Jacoby Brissett was getting better, and you go out and get Phillip Rivers, who didn't look great last year, and you don't have any. He has less receiving weapons on this Colts team than he had with the Chargers. So I don't know. Maybe he using Naheem Hines like they used Austin Eckler, but they don't. I mean, you got T.Y. Hilton. That don't move anything for me. You know what I mean? They ain't even re-signed Devin Funches. Then you go to the Titans. I just don't believe in Ryan Tannehill, man.
Nah, man.
You signed Ryan Tannehill.
Bro, it's an Adam Gase, Peyton Manning situation all over again. Ryan Tannehill got a contract off the work of King Henry, man. Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and you signed Tannehill to the 4 years, $118 million, 62 guaranteed, and franchise my guy Derrick Henry. What did he get, $8 million this year or something like that?
Exactly. They'll be drafting another quarterback here in the next 2 years. Because, man, Ryan Tannehill never showed me anything when he was in Miami. He never showed me anything when he was in college.
Bro, he was a receiver in college.
Exactly.
That's why.
Johnny
for
Football
most of his
took
time.
his job.
Yeah, bro. I understand that he played well, but it seems like a severe overreaction to say, hey, he played well. But also, this ties back to how trash the quarterback market is in the NFL. And this is my argument about the XFL. The XFL has 8 teams and probably 2 decent quarterbacks. You look at the NFL, it's not that much different when you say 30 teams or 32 teams. Because most of the quarterbacks are so trash, you're willing to give Ryan Tannehill $118 million just because he was decent. Now, I'll give him more credit than that. You know, half a year last year, he was one of the better quarterbacks, but that's before people focus on you. You got to realize now they're just going to be game planning for Ryan Tannehill, and he has the cushion of a Derrick Henry. Whenever Derrick Henry can touch the ball and run for 100 yards carrying 9 people, that makes your quarterbacks look a lot better. I just would not have tied that much money into him, bro. But I would have got Andy Dalton before I would have signed
basically,
Ryan
man, it's Blake Bortles all over again in his contract year. When Blake Bortles balled out that 1 year, this is the same thing that Ryan Tannehill is doing, and I see them drafting. Man, they might be getting Trevor Lawrence next year for all we know, man. But
I mean, that's not a bad thing because you can hold them for those low contracts for so long. So that would help them if you're sticking to the run game. But shit, if you just play Ryan Tannehill, $118 million. 62 guaranteed, and you're in position to get Trevor Lawrence, there's going to be a problem somewhere. Mm-hmm. GM coach or something. You better not be in no top 5 next year.
I mean, now that you look at the running back situation in the league, does that affect Derrick Henry's contract? Whenever he signs a contract. You know, you got...
And they lost Jack Conklin, one of the running backs. One of the right tackles.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering... You know, with the Todd Gurley situation, how that played out, will it affect a Derrick Henry? You know, will it affect Ezekiel Elliott? Could he be next?
Le'Veon Bell the same way, man. When you look at running backs, usually when they get paid, they decline on you or get injured. It only takes one injury to derail a running back. You know what I mean? Now, maybe Todd Gurley is different because he has arthritis in his knee. You know what I'm saying? But look at David Johnson. David Johnson had a crazy season. Looked like one of the top backs in the NFL. Then the next year, I think he hurt his hand or something. It wasn't even like a knee injury. Yeah, it's like a broken hand. He hadn't been the same since. So you never know what can derail a running back. That's going to keep them in the future for getting money. It was like that for a while. Then Todd Gurley came and he opened the market back up with the draft picks. You had Gordon and you had Gurley and you had Melvin Gordon get taken high for the first time in a couple of years. Gurley's also the one that pushed the running back contracts up high. But as soon as Gurley gets that huge contract, then he messes up his knee. And you see what happens to the Rams. Now they're in cap hell. Now you see what happens to Devontae Freeman. You give Devontae Freeman that money, he's a shell of himself afterwards. Like all these running backs, they get paid and they don't live up to it. Man, if they didn't sign his 10-year contract, if I was a running back, I would have been fighting for, hey, I need to get my money up front like quarterbacks used to, because at least you know running backs are productive from like jump for like 5 or 7 years. But when they get times for their big contracts, they're usually not as productive.
Definitely going to be an interesting state of affairs in the AFC South this year. I mean, who do you... Now, I know we have... And we'll probably get into predictions later on, but I think out of our whole analysis of the AFC, which team do you think improved the most and which team do you think declined the most?
So it's 2 different questions, because the decline, I mean, once you lose Hop, I mean, then I think Houston already declined by a significant amount, because now you're only dependent on Watson with very little weapons, or very little weapons that can stay healthy. So I'm automatically going to say I believe Houston declined the most, but with that, I don't think any team significantly improved. I mean, maybe I have to just go with the Titans because they didn't lose a lot. But there's not a lot of teams that just significantly improved over the offseason in the AFC South. I'm just going to go with that the Houston had a decline, and I feel like the Titans are more consistent, even signing Ryan Tannehill back and bringing Derrick Henry back. They didn't lose a ton, so I think that they win the division just off of that. But I don't think any team made themselves significantly better.
I think Baltimore with the Calais Campbell pickup, man, I really think that's gonna help.
I thought we were talking about the AFC South.
I'm just saying AFC in general, player.
I got you.
AFC in general, man. I know it's late.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Well, I'll tell you this: it doesn't matter.
Hey, man,
because I don't think any team is better than the Chiefs. No,
I can see the Chiefs. It's gonna be between the Chiefs and Baltimore once again, man. I mean, I'm not gonna say New England had the biggest decline. We will see because you still got Bill Belichick. At the end of the day, man, we'll see which influence is more prevalent: Bill Belichick's coaching system or Tom Brady's quarterback play. Anywho, man, let's go ahead and roll over to the NFC, man. Our favorite conference, most definitely. Let's talk about this NFC West, man. There's some things going on, man, but nothing too much. I mean, the Rams, cutting Todd Gurley was kind of a out of left field play, man. He's got degenerative arthritis in his knees. A few years ago, like 2 years ago, during the playoff run and the Super Bowl run, you saw where his role was getting diminished more and more. You thought that he would have a little bit of a comeback this season, and then the Rams just all of a sudden release him, man. He ends up going to the Atlanta Falcons, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the Rams made some moves, man, releasing Todd Gurley, releasing Clay Matthews, man, getting Dante Fowler out of there. I mean, what's up with the Rams, man?
Cap hell. That's what they is. They're signing people to bad contracts, long-term money, locking people up. They're not like they have a lot of talent. They had a lot of young talent, but they're not doing a good job of managing these contracts. Right now what they're doing is they're trying to prepare for Jalen Ramsey. I mean, you trade all those draft picks for all these players. You have to keep those players. You can't lose those players, but now in NFL it's not like basketball. You can't tie all your money up into 5 or 6 players or your team is going to be kind of ass. And they tied a lot of money. You can do that if you're going to take a hit at quarterback. So at the point where they re-signed Jared Goff, it kind of messed up all this. Like, you should not have committed that money to Jared Goff. I would have gave Blake Bortles a chance before I committed that money to Jared Goff. And I'm only saying that because of the amount of talent that's on their team. They would not be in this situation. You not lose a Corey Littleton and Dante Fowler. You wouldn't have lost these players, a Todd Gurley, if you wouldn't have committed that money to Jared Goff. Now, they better believe in Goff, because I sure in the hell doesn't, because I believe that that's why they're having to break this team up, and they're trying to prepare to sign Jalen Ramsey, who they traded for this year. His contract, he's unrestricted free agent next year. They're going to have to franchise tag him, or they're going to have to sign him to another contract. With Byron Jones getting this money, I mean, that franchise tag going to be like 16 to 18 million next year. Byron Jones, Darius Slay, these cornerbacks are getting paid, man.
I mean, I definitely think, it was definitely a shock to me that Byron Jones became the highest paid corner in the league. So, Jalen Ramsey's definitely going to blow past that whenever his deal is up. I think, it's really the Rams, they missed the playoffs last year. I think they regress majorly with a lot of the holes they got. I don't know what they're planning on doing in the draft. I mean, you obviously got to look at a running back. There are a few running backs out there, but they spent the top pick, though, on Henderson, right? Henderson was a pretty high pick. I believe so, yes. So you got to at least give him a chance. You can't spend another pick on a running back. You have to either believe in Henderson to at least give him a shot. And now there's even rumors that they're going to part ways with Brandon Cooks. So I mean, but I agree with that, man. If you can get off that money, he hasn't been productive. Robert Woods is way more productive. Brandon Cooks has been a shell of himself since whatever happened to him in New England. I don't know what happened to him in New England, but they destroyed that kid. I almost said St. Louis. I think Los Angeles thought they were getting New Orleans Saints Brandon Cooks, and it just he hadn't produced since, man. But yeah, you got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. I think they've kind of passed him up, man. I think Brandon Cooks' best days may be behind him. Now, one team that definitely made some moves, man, those Arizona Cardinals, bro. Yeah, I mean, and Arizona's a team like we talked about with Miami. The one thing I respect about them is, man, they were in every game. They were fighting hard. They were playing hard. Like, I gave Kingsbury a lot of shit because he was never a winner at Texas Tech. So
baffled my mind how he would get a head coaching job in NFL. But I mean, I can't knock them. That team played hard. Kyler Murray played hard. They tried to win. They had a lot of young players step up on that offense and defense. So adding a player like DeAndre Hopkins, and you only lose David Johnson, who you didn't even have last year. You get Kenyon Drake. You kind of overplaying him with the franchise. I mean, with the transition tag, making about $8 million a year. I don't know if Drake is worth that, but he showed enough to give it a try this year to see. They added Jordan Phillips, OU guy, big guy from Buffalo. I really like what he did last year. More playing time. He should be more disrupted. Kennard, he was a big player with Detroit last year. Detroit was a very bad defense, but Kennard made a lot of plays on that outside. So I actually think this Cardinals team got a lot better. They didn't really lose much. You added a primetime receiver like Hop to go along with Larry Fitzgerald. This team is going to be good, man. I don't know how many games they win, but they're going to be a good team.
Well, I think what we'll see this year is Kyler Murray come into his own, man. I mean, reigning in a offensive rookie of the year. You know, there were a lot of digs at Kyler Murray when he first came into the league, man. You know, people questioned his hand size, people questioned his height overall. I saw pretty much the second coming of Russell Wilson with Kyler Murray. The first coming to Kyler Murray, man. I mean, the guy is more than capable of running an offense, especially an offense that suits the same style of play that he played under Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. I mean, it's second nature to him. And now that you are putting weapons around him, you have the legendary first ballot Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald, without a shadow of a doubt, on one side. He's still coming back. He can still, produce, give you some looks at a high level. Then you add Nuck Hopkins on the other side of that, man. I mean, Kyler Murray's going to have a field day, man. You got one of the best receivers in the league. And then there are heavy rumors that they may add a CD Lamb just because of the familiarity with the system and with Kyler Murray. Now,
and Kingsbury loves wide receivers, so I don't doubt that. But don't sleep on Andy Isabella. He was a sleeper pick last year who has like 4.2, 4.3 speed that can be a Will Fuller type player. He didn't get a lot of run this year, but he's still in that offense, and he learned it last year.
Now, I think that they should spend some picks beefing up the offensive line, but, I think Arizona could be definitely much more improved, man, this year. I won't call them a playoff team yet, but I think they could be well on their way, man,
Well, they're in a tough division. That's going to be the hardest part. They're probably in the toughest division in the NFL because we're talking about a division that has the Rams, the Niners, the Seahawks. That was a 3-team race all the way down to the end. None of these teams got significantly worse. Like, even with the losses that the Rams took, I still think that's a good team. I still believe in their coach. I don't think they're just going to fall off the face of the earth. I believe he'll be able to, work something with that offensive scheme with Cooper Kupp, the Robert Woods, some of the players that you mentioned. And I don't think it's out of the way that they don't go get a Devontae Freeman. I mean, there's still some quality running backs out here that you can replace a Todd Gurley with. We're just assuming that Todd Gurley's going to be gone, but if you can get a player that can give you some of what Todd Gurley gave, because you got to remember last season Todd Gurley was a shell of themselves. And they still got Jalen Ramsey. They should have a good defense there. Seattle, they didn't make major signings, but I think they're always going to be one of those teams that can just kind of keep it going. It always stays in the hunt. You got Russell Wilson. And then you always got the Niners, man. The Niners has that defensive line, bro. Their defensive line is crazy.
Well, they lost a major part of their defensive line. They lost DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts. So, I mean, that's a big part.
That's only one. But they were plugging like 7 dudes into that line. So, yeah, you did lose Buckner.
But it's pretty much Nick Bosa's team at this point, man.
Yeah, you still got those 2 ends on there, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be highly competitive in the NFC West, man. I probably see it'll be between the Seahawks and the Niners, no doubt, man. And this time, but, one of the biggest questions, what is Jimmy G's confidence going to look like, man? You heard a couple of rumblings in the offseason. The 49ers are trying to bring in Tom Brady. They're thinking about dealing Jimmy G. I mean, where's his psyche at in all this?
I think they killed that kind of quick. I mean, they kind of jumped out ahead of that story, killed it real early, said Jimmy G's not going anywhere, they're not interested. So they jumped out of it way before the league moratorium period even started on Monday. They had already said that they're out. So that was just kind of a bad rumor. We know what that team is anyway. That team is all based on the run game. They're going to pound the ball, and they're going to play hard defense. That's the team that you have. They just need – now, they did lose Emmanuel Sanders, so they got late in the offseason with the trade. They re-signed Kendrick Bourne. I love Debo Samuels, so maybe they're just trusting in him, but I would like to see them go into this draft and get another legit receivers because I don't love their receivers. Everything else about this 49ers team, I think they're there, but except for Jimmy G and the receivers. So you're not going to replace Jimmy G anytime soon, so you need to go get a playmaking receiver, somebody that can make Jimmy G look good. You already got Debo, but we saw that he's better catching it behind the line of scrimmage and being used underneath routes. It's easy to cut that off, and that's kind of what the Chiefs did. At that point in time, you need somebody to be able to make a play deep. So I'll be interested to see what they do in the draft because Emmanuel Sanders was supposed to be that player, but he didn't show up for him in the Super Bowl. It's only so many times you can throw to the tight end and swing it out to Debo Samuels and run the ball. Sometimes you're going to have to beat that coverage deep.
So it's going to be very interesting in NFC West this year. Now, let's go ahead and move over to our favorite division in football, the NFC East, man.
Yeah.
A lot of, not too much going on. I mean, let's just go ahead and talk about the obvious, man. The Eagles got a big-time acquisition with Darius Slay.
Yeah.
Getting him from the Detroit Lions. So that was a good look for them. You know, you lose Jordan Howard, but you got a player in Miles Sanders. You got Carson Wentz coming back. What are your thoughts on your Philadelphia Eagles and what they'll do this year?
Man, the Eagles are so frustrating because ever since the super team with Vince Young and Nnamdi Asomugha, they never jump in on the first day of free agency. They always like to play it cool and calm, which is good for me as a fan in the long run, but it takes that excitement out of the first day. They signed Javon, I don't even remember his last name, Javon Hargrave from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I didn't really know who this dude was, but then when I looked him up, man, that defensive line is gonna be sick. So you have Fletcher Cox already locked up. You have Brandon Graham locked up, and then you go sign this young kid, Javon Hargraves, as a defensive tackle. They have 3 of like the top 6 highest paid defensive ends on there, and that's not even adding a Malik Jackson on that and Derek Barnett, who they took in the first round. You add that with going and getting Darius Slay, even though they lost Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins was asking for like $12 million for the Eagles, but he settled for like $8 a year with the Saints. He was looking for a payday, a lot of leadership, but he got burnt a lot, bro. So I really like them putting Jalen Mills in that situation because he reminds me a lot of what Jenkins was in New Orleans early on. A really good cover corner that didn't have the legit speed. They started using him in kind of that joker role, bringing him down into the box. I think Jalen Mills will be very successful because his problem isn't coverage. His problem is speed. Dudes could just run right past it. You put him on tight ends, middle of the field, kind of over the top safety, I think he'll be a good look, especially if you got a corner like Darius Slay. The problem is they're missing that second corner. I personally think they should just go ahead and re-sign Ronald Darby, 26-year-old. I think he does very good in coverage if he can stay healthy. And there's not a lot of good cornerbacks on the market. Linebackers is always something that the Eagles never took in serious, but the fact that they haven't done anything in the linebacker core and the fact that they haven't done anything in the receiving core kind of troubles me because, yes, if Deshaun Jackson comes back, then we should be okay. But nobody knows if Deshaun Jackson's ever going to stay healthy. I think they really need to be going to get a receiver. I like receivers like Devin Funches, Robbie Anderson, but I think that needs to be the real focus. I like what they did with Slay. I like what they did with going to get Will Park, signing Jalen Mills. I want to re-sign Ronald Darby because he's one of the better cornerbacks, and then try to get a receiver. But I love everything they're doing so far.
So, let's go ahead and transition and talk about my Dallas Cowboys, man. A lot of holes. We lost a ton of people, man. I mean, you lose Robert Quinn, who led the team in sacks last year with, I believe, 11.5. You lose a lot of the secondary. You lose Byron Jones. You lose Jeff Heath. A lot of people, a lot of new holes. They made some moves. You know, you signed a Gerald McCoy, which for them, that's a good look. You have him playing on the other side of DeMarcus Lawrence. I think that could be dangerous. Now, one thing that I have question marks about, because, you know, Malik Collins is now gone as well. He's another one of the new Dallas Raiders out there in Las Vegas. Now, one thing that was kind of interesting, Randy Gregory is eligible for reinstatement again. Marijuana is finally legalized within the CBA. Do we see Randy Gregory for a full season? I don't know, man. I've given up on the Randy Gregory experiment. Tristan Hill, to me, is kind of looking like shades of Taco Charlton all over again. He could be a bust. But we get Gerald McCoy, and then we also signed Clinton Dix, safety. So
that's the safety he was looking for, right? The safety that covers all the ground, high draft pick.
Yep. You know what? If this would have been a Clinton Dix of 5 years ago, I'd be a little more excited. I mean, it's a safe pickup. You know, it's a veteran presence. It seems like, you know, Anthony Brown and Chibide Awuzie will be your new starters now. Probably throw Xavier Woods in there too. There's a lot of holes on defense. They re-signed Sean Lee. They bring Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith to be coming back. But there are questions around the health of Leighton Vander Esch as well with the neck injury. He has a history of neck injuries. So the defense, I'm worried. It's kind of like rat cheese, man. A lot of holes there. It'll be interesting to see what Mike McCarthy and his new staff chooses to do with the Cowboys. Now, offensively, I think the biggest news of the whole offseason is for Dak and the franchise tag. So I think that's going to be
It's actually 32 and not 27. I thought it was 27. It's actually 32 this year, which is a big deal.
Dak's getting paid, man, but it's just really – I think this one may come back to bite him, man, because they should have signed Dak Prescott 2 years ago before the market got reset with Goff and Wentz, and before it's eventually going to be reset again when Patrick Mahomes signs for like $50 million a year.
Yeah, that franchise tag is kind of a game changer because when we talked about it last week, I was thinking that it was going to be around $27 million. And the reason why that's a big deal is because next year it goes up 20%. So if you say $27 million, then next year that's like $32, $33 million. That's reasonable. They'll do that.
Mean, they got to get a long term.
But as of right now, you're talking about that it's going to be 40-something million if they franchise tag them next year. And I just don't think that's something that they're going to be able to afford when you see the cuts that they're making.
Got to get a long-term deal done, man. I mean, you got to get something done with Dak eventually. The good news is, you know, they're bringing Amari Cooper back, but are we going to see Amari Cooper go balls out, or are we going to see the Amari Cooper from last year that was inconsistent, that was up and down? I think the only other moves they really made, they bought a couple of folks back on the offensive line, like Xavier Su'a-Filo, some of the key role players, key backups. But that's about it, man. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Are you okay with Amari getting that money?
You know what? I mean, so I'm really conflicted on this because I like Amari Cooper. But what Amari Cooper are you paying for? What Amari Cooper are you going to get? That's my biggest question in all this. If we get Amari Cooper the first season he was there, I'm cool with it, you know. I'm glad he got the bag. But if we get inconsistent Amari Cooper, it's going to hurt us beyond measure within the salary cap for these next couple of years.
I would not have paid. I think I stated this on last podcast. There's no way I would have paid Amari Cooper. Now, okay, if you don't want to pay Byron Jones, I said I would have chose Byron Jones. Okay, don't play Byron Jones either. But they're tying up too much money into offensive players. Like, somebody had to go. You know what I'm saying? You pay Zeke. You're obviously going to pay Dak. And the longer you wait, that Dak contract is going to look more and more miserable to Dallas fans. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm a Dak fan, but I don't want to be paying no quarterback $40 million. Especially if they're not Patrick Mahomes. You give me Patrick Mahomes, all right, he literally wins games himself. If you're not doing that, I'm not trying to pay no quarterback $40 million. I don't care if he throws for 5,000 yards. And that's the situation that they're backing themselves in.
We'll see, man. I mean, I think the division will be between the Cowboys and Eagles as it usually is. I don't think Washington is going to do much, even though Ron Rivera is a massive upgrade, and I'm sure they'll be doing some things. And then
They got a lot of young talent, though. One thing I like about Washington, I like that they kept Haskins there. They didn't go get a bum quarterback to take his position. I like those young receivers in Harmon and what's the other kid's name from Ohio State?
The receiver?
Yes, the receiver from Ohio State. I know they got Kelvin Harmon, who they got him late in the draft, but they have a young receiver that was crazy this year. I can't believe I just Terry McLaurin from Ohio State. Yeah, and Cam Sims was another young receiver. So they have a really good young receiving core, and they have a good young cornerback. If they can just get those running backs healthy and quit relying on Adrian Peterson, maybe they can do something.
Darius Geis, he'll be coming off an injury this year, so I think that'll be a nice little piece for them. They finally get rid of Josh.
He had about 6 injuries
They finally
this year.
get rid of Josh Norman's bullshit contract. I told you my Josh Norman story, man.
Yeah, man.
He's a Buffalo now, but finally got rid of that contract. The biggest thing, Trent Williams. They're talking about they might force a trade with him. I mean, I think he's still valuable. He's definitely a future Hall of Famer, man. He could definitely produce, and that's somebody you want on your interior line. But I think that ship has sailed with that organization, man. I don't really think even Ron Rivera can bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, once you start lying to a player about his health and kind of affect his livelihood, some players take that personally. I mean, I'm always in Trent Williams' side, the OU guy. But, I mean, I just think that relationship's dead. I think that they need to get the players union involved to get him out of there. I mean, last year he just set out, and he had valid reason, man. The Redskins did him wrong, man.
I mean,
you can't have trainers telling you one thing.
I think that Daniel Snyder is definitely torn that team apart, man, because the Redskins on paper are a talented team every year, man. It's just horrible ownership, but they got a good coach, man. They got a really good coach in Ron Rivera, which makes me think, if Cam Newton becomes available, if his services are available, does Ron Rivera make a move for Cam Newton? I wouldn't give up on Dwayne Haskins just yet, man. I think with the right coach and the right system, I think Dwayne Haskins could be something special. Last year was just a dumpster fire, man, with Washington. It was a clusterfuck, and I don't think he was ready for that particular situation. But
Well, the coach didn't like him either.
He didn't want to draft him. It makes a big
deal if the coach.
He didn't want to draft him.
He didn't want to draft him. He didn't want to use him to his strengths. He didn't want to do that. And I think Ron Rivera is one thing that he is good about. Even when Cam Newton got hurt, you see these other quarterbacks come in. He tries to play to quarterback strengths. So I think having a coach like Ron to come in there and actually let Haskins be comfortable and play his game might be good. Because at the end of the season, he showed good things. You know what I'm saying? He has a good relationship with McLaurin. They played together, 2 years or 1 year? And the Cam Sims and Kelvin Harmon, they got some good weapons out there. They just need a coach to let them utilize their weapons. And if they run that same offense that they ran in Carolina, I mean, all you got to do is catch the ball. Carolina wasn't good at catching the ball.
Not at all.
I mean, so they just dump it down to CMC.
So, moving on to the Giants, man, it's definitely the Danny Dimes show now. They got a no-name coach who was like the special teams coach in the New England Patriots. Nothing to talk about there, man. It's the Danny Dimes show. Eli Manning called it a career. Nothing much going on with the New York Giants, man.
I mean, once you got Danny Dimes, you got Saquon, and they got their little Darius Slayton. So, I mean, they got some good things on offense going. I don't know about their defense. I don't think this team is going to be great next year, but they definitely have building blocks that a lot of teams would love to have.
Sterling Shepard's nice too, man. I thought.
Can't stay healthy.
So, moving on, man. Let's go ahead and transition, man, to the NFC North. We're going to say the best for last. We're going to say the most talked about for last. NFC North, man, starting with the Minnesota Vikings. You lose Stephon Diggs, but at least they got something for him, unlike the Houston Texans, but it wasn't
they got
great.
a first,
They got something for him. Everson Griffin's gone. They got some holes to address. They re-up Kirk Cousins, man, on a 2-year, $66 million extension.
But I'm wondering if signing an extension is the reason why they just been gutting their defense. I can understand saying Xavier Rhodes. They've lost Xavier Rhodes, Mackenzie Alexander, Trey Waynes, Linval Joseph, Everson Griffin. Like they lost almost their whole defense. Are they that confident in these young
they're
guys?
They're going to get exposed next year. I can tell because Aaron Rodgers is going to be ready to go next year. And I think the Packers are going to win that division. The Bears are really... They got horrible quarterback play. The Lions, Matthew Stafford can't stay healthy. They're a terrible team. I mean, there's really not much to talk about the NFC North here, man. I mean, I don't think the Vikings go on that run like they did last year.
That's putting a lot of the load on Dalvin Cook, and you know what I mean? Like, they lost one of your better offensive weapons. He wasn't the best receiver on the team. Thielen was. Dalvin Cook, they want to run the ball. But okay, you give away Diggs, you get a first, fine. But you already had a third receiver problem. Like, you didn't have any other receivers besides those two. Then you just kind of gut the defense. That's why I'm wondering is this because you signed Kirk Cousins? Because you could have let that dude go. I mean, if you signed him $66 million and you lose like all of your secondary, half of your defensive line,
defense,
like,
bro, gone. Was Kirk Cousins worth it at the end of the day?
yeah, is he winning games by himself? I don't see that. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Obviously, Chicago has no face. They had that defense. They gave up so much to make that defense better. And then you turn around and you don't even have a competent quarterback. So at the point in time, they go and trade for Nick Foles. They make it like every year he can opt out, but tell him that his money is still fully guaranteed for the $20 million. Which if he doesn't play well, then he won't opt out of the contract so he can get the money. But why do you even bring in a quarterback like Nick Foles? I guess,
man, the Nick Foles luster wore off with me a long time ago, man. I mean, yeah, he had the run when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. He was Super Bowl MVP. But let's not forget, he was trash before that. He wasn't really that great, man. So I kind of saw through that smoke screen, man. You know, it was a good little moment for him as a journeyman at that point, you know, to become Super Bowl MVP and win the Super Bowl or whatnot. But I don't know, man. I mean, I don't really see him dethroning Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, the Chicago Bears better put something in for Cam Newton if he becomes available.
But Mitchell Trubisky's ass. And they can't get Cam Newton now because they just took on Nick Foles' contract. So they can't even get him now. All that money is on that defense, which kind of regressed last year. The running game, they don't trust David Montgomery. They try to, but the coach is just not wired to run the ball. He's kind of like an early Andy Reid. They should be giving David Montgomery the ball more. And Trubisky's ass.
He does too much. They really don't have good receivers. They don't trust Tariq Cohen either. And that's the crazy part. They have good runners, man. They just don't trust them, and they rely on Mitchell Trubisky way too much. In fact, he shouldn't even be a Chicago Bear, man. Deshaun Watson should have been a Chicago Bear. In fact, I'm really looking at their GM crazy because you traded up one spot to get a mediocre player instead of like the generational talents that were there. But I digress.
Bro, this dude came out the first play of the season last year in like a diamond formation with Mike Davis, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, and it was like one of the worst plays. It's like a triple option, one of the worst plays you've seen, and that should have just been like a preview of what you were going to get that season. He does way too much on offense. I don't think Trubisky's a terrible quarterback. I think he makes that offense way too complicated for Trubisky. You know what I mean? They don't. Like, he's a good runner. He's like a Cam Newton type of player, a Josh Allen type of player. He can make plays.
Trubisky had 1 year starting at North Carolina. So he has to get some time to get acclimated. I mean, hell, the Cowboys playing him last year made him look like fucking Joe Montana. So, I mean,
he has that talent, though. He did it the year before.
I think he got thrown into the fire a little bit too quick. And now I think that the expectations have ratcheted up. They're expecting way more from Mitchell Trubisky.
Well, you remember last year, they didn't even play him during the preseason. Like, they were acting like he was Tom Brady, like he's already good to go. And that always baffled me because young quarterbacks need all the reps that they can get in that type of offense so they can learn all the nuances and so they can get familiar with their receivers. Another thing is they lost Taylor Gabriel. Taylor Gabriel was probably the best receiver on that team for the last couple of years. You know what I mean? And he really took the top off of it. So, man, I don't know what this team is going to be. If you put Nick Foles in there, Nick Foles can at least simplify things so it's just depending on the defense. He won't hurt you like
I think
Trubisky.
That's good, man, having Nick Foles behind Trubisky because it gives him that veteran. Ooh, excuse me. That's my allergies, not the Rona. The Rona has not hit House Perry, and hopefully it never does. But I think that gives him that veteran presence, man. You know, you put a vet behind Trubisky, someone who can really mentor him so he can lean on someone and kind of make it a little bit less stressful for him. But I see the Packers running away with this division, man. I mean, not much has happened in this division. I mean, the Detroit Lions, they lost Darius Slay. I mean, they're pitiful. They are pitiful.
Yeah, I mean, and they went and signed my boy Vita from the Eagles to 5 years, $45 million. And if you're an Eagle fan, you know, I mean, he had a good run during the Super Bowl years, but you can't depend on this dude on the right or left side. Like, you don't even, they got him listed as a guard. And dude play tackles. Like, you just gave this dude $45 million and nobody knows what position he plays.
You know what the biggest thing, the biggest question I have on the Detroit Lions? How did Jim Caldwell lose his job, winning 9 games, but Matt Patricia hadn't lost his? And this is a bigger problem in the NFL, man, with these Belichick disciples. Everybody thinks that they've got the Midas touch. If you get somebody from the Bill Belichick coaching tree and everything they touch will turn to gold. That's exactly not true. And I think it's a bigger indictment on the Patriot way. The Patriot way only works in New England. You cannot take that and put it everywhere else, man, because cultures are different. And I think that's what Matt Patricia is suffering from. He's trying to turn Detroit in a New England part 2, and it just won't work, man. The personalities are different, the team structure is different, and that's really, you know, to me, it's baffling that he still has a job, man. I predict that he'll be the defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots once again, man, before it's all said and done, because he ain't gonna last long in Detroit, bruh.
Nah, man, even the players that are leaving, I mean, sometimes you get players that leave and they're at least happy with you, but players that are leaving, like you see people leaving Detroit this offseason saying that they were hoping they get cut. He's one of the worst coaches that they've ever seen. Like Darius Slay has been like a top 3, top 5 corner in the league every year over the last 7 years, and he was terrible. Everybody was terrible in that defense. The offense, you seen your boy didn't even want to come back, Stafford. Like, he kept just sitting out the season, extending his injury. I just don't know what you do with this team, and I think they're going to let Matt Patricia kind of destroy everything about this team, and they need to get rid of him as soon as possible. He didn't even use Kerryon Johnson right. You drafted a young running back who showed a lot of potential, and then you just let bums play over him before he even got hurt. You know what I mean?
They have no shot of getting Tua Tagovailoa in this draft. He's already come out and say he will not go to Detroit. He will not play there. The family said he ain't going there, so don't even think about drafting him.
I mean, I agree with you, man. The Packers, they lost Blake Martinez, who I love. I don't love them replacing him with Kirksey. They lost Brian Bulaga, a little bit up in age, but the way that they run the ball, that could be big. But they still look like the best team in this division. I agree. Unless that Bears defense is going to go back to being the Bears defense that we saw for half a season the year before last, that defense wasn't as good last year. I mean, it just simply wasn't. And if that defense isn't dominating, I don't believe in Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky enough to really make an impact good enough to win this division. It comes down to Minnesota or Green Bay with me, and Green Bay, they stayed steady. They didn't do anything great, but Minnesota lost 90% of their starters last year on defense. I can't trust them.
Man, Aaron Rodgers is going to carve this division up, man. He's going to have his way with him. And so I definitely think Green Bay are definitely on top here. Now, man, it's time for the main event, bro. The division that
dinner
drove everybody insane this week. This damn NFC South, man.
Best division in football, the NFC South, NFC West.
The NFC South is the best division of football, man. Let's go ahead and get out the way, man. Talk about these Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the winners of the Tom Brady sweepstakes, and also the recipient of a brand new fan base of about 5 million people, because I've never seen so many Buccaneers fans post 2002.
Yeah, when Mike Allstott and Warwick Dunn.
Yeah, the year that they won the Super Bowl. I hadn't seen this many Bucs fans since, bro. And they are all in on TB12 and the TB12 experience. But the man's got hella weapons around him, man. You got Mike Evans. You got O.J. Howard, man, just to name a few. I mean, the team is stacked, and other players want to go there to be with Tom Brady. It's almost like the LeBron effect of the NFL, man. I mean, they were even talking about maybe AB. Tom Brady's trying to get AB out there, but Bruce Arians put the kibosh on that quick, man.
Nah, Bruce Arians said, nah.
He's like, I coached him in Pittsburgh. They ain't having it.
Yeah,
bro.
man. Yeah. So it's funny, man, because this looked like one of the biggest no-brainers in free agency. We talked about this last podcast. I even had some people tell me that I was crazy for thinking that he would go there and not go here. Like, it's a no-brainer. You had a team, even though for years Tampa Bay has been ass. Last year, this Tampa Bay team was very, very good. They were just very, very bad at quarterback. You had a quarterback that threw 30 interceptions, and I think they still finished like 7-9. They took some of the better teams down to the wire. They destroyed the Rams in LA. When Jameis Winston played well, this team was very dangerous because that defense is really, really good. And I know you can't tell that when you got a quarterback throwing it 7 interceptions a game. It gets hard to watch. But this defense has been good all year. And then you add a player like Tom Brady. I don't care if he's not the old Tom Brady. One thing that Tom Brady has never done is he's never beat you. You know what I mean? He never really has those games where he's throwing 4 or 5 interceptions where he's going to beat the team. And that's all this team needs. Now, I would like to see them get another running back because I do not trust Ronald Jones III. And they just lost Peyton Barber. If they re-sign Peyton Barber, I may be on board a little bit. But if they don't re-sign Peyton Barber, I don't trust Ronald Jones enough. I think that Tom Brady needs a running game, but that's it. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they re-signed Brashad Perryman, Scott Miller, O.J. Howard. You know what I'm saying? That team is stacked on defense, and they're really good on offense.
He's got 2 Pro Bowl receivers, so that's already more than what he had in New England last year. I really think now I'm not just going to give them the division off top, man, because they still got to play the New Orleans Saints twice a year, man. But the cool thing about Tom Brady's deal is 2 years, $50 million, but that's a team-friendly contract, man, so they could go get additional pieces. So I don't think it's over yet, and Bruce Arians is a renowned QB guru, man. I mean, he's a quarterback whisperer, man, and getting him and Tom Brady together, man, that's definitely going to be something interesting. But it's really going to be something to see, man. See Tom Brady do it on his own. I mean, he is this generation's Joe Montana, no doubt, man. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with that team. The fan base has been reinvigorated, man. I think it'll be a good look for the NFC South this year.
I mean, it's got to put butts in seats. I mean, Tampa Bay has been a terrible team for so long. I'm just glad that they got somebody like Tom Brady that can put butts in the seats, that you can appreciate that offense that they had, because that offense is full of weapons, man. And they're going to be an exciting team to watch. I hope they don't end up like the Browns, where you think they're going to be exciting and they just shit the bed. But hopefully they're going to be good. But this whole division is good, man. I like the Teddy Bridgewater going to the Carolina Panthers.
I'll tell you what,
man.
A lot of people out here, so I live in North Carolina. I know I'm not a Panthers fan, but you would have thought like the flags were flown at half staff and everything, man. You would have thought like somebody like passed away, man. But it's definitely the end of an era, man. To see Cam Newton go, especially after Matt Rule and David Tepper said, hey, Cam Newton are a part of our plans moving forward, and looks like it's not happening. But Teddy Bridgewater, man, I always thought he was kind of the Deshaun Watson of the draft where Johnny Football and all those guys got picked up. I always thought that Teddy Bridgewater should have went ahead of Johnny Manziel in that draft. He was a quality player out of Louisville. I just felt that he didn't get the proper chance due to his injury in Minnesota. I thought they should have kept him, but it's really good to see him put his career back on track. And I think he'll do good things with the Carolina Panthers, man. Matt Rule, first-year coach, coming over from Baylor. I think Teddy Bridgewater is the type of player that he likes to coach. He's similar to some of the quarterbacks he has at Baylor. So I know it'll be very interesting to see him and Christian McCaffrey together. I think that's a nice 1-2 punch. I think the Panthers could do a few things, man. I mean, they were only a starting quarterback away from being a playoff team, due to Cam Newton's injury and all. But I think they could have a little bit of a rebound. And so that's why I'm really hesitant to just hand a division over to the Tampa Bay Bucks, because other teams are going to be better. The Panthers are going to be better. The Falcons, arguably picking up John Gurley, will be a little bit better. The Saints aren't going anywhere, so that's why I'm just not going to say, Tom Brady, it's the automatic Super Bowl bid, because they still got to go through a very competitive division.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I really like this Panthers team, and one of the reasons why I think Cam Newton is on his way out, he hadn't been released yet, but they hadn't found a trade partner. Everyone thinks that it's going to come down to Cam Newton just being released, and that's what we've talked about a lot of times this episode. But Cam Newton, he made the cardinal mistake of getting hurt because he was already kind of in a class with Christian McCaffrey. It's not a public thing, but you've heard some of the comments about early in this season when they were saying that they should get him the ball more, and I'm thinking the coach got him on the fantasy team. He wasn't really ready to rely on just checking the ball down to Christian McCaffrey, which seems like a golden game plan, even with the bum quarterbacks they put in. You check it down to him. I think he got like 100 receptions, 1,000 yards as a running back was the first but Cam wasn't willing to just check the ball down to Christian McCaffrey. He kind of wanted to do it himself. He kind of wanted to throw a lot of deep balls, and that's not what they're looking for. You bring in Rule, who's in one of those Baylor offenses that's all predicated on getting the ball out quick, letting that ball go, not holding it, and Cam has a big problem with trying to hold that ball to make a play 6, 7, 8 seconds. And that is not what Rule wants. Rule wants to put somebody back there that's a pocket passer, that even if it's a check down, that you're going to get that ball out of your hand. So I love that Teddy Bridgewater move, because people forget how good Teddy Bridgewater was before he hurt his knee. So I love this for the Panthers. I think that they can be immediately better just by the fact that Teddy Bridgewater can run that system that Rule is bringing in. And they have Christian McCaffrey, probably one of the best weapons in the NFL right now.
So another team that had a little bit of an upgrade over the weekend was the Atlanta Falcons. They let Devontae Freeman go. I mean, you're picking up Todd Gurley, but it's not prime Todd Gurley. You know, he's had a rough go of it as of late. But nonetheless, you know, he could be a threat with Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, those receivers there. You know, Todd Gurley's really renowned for his pass catching skills out of the backfield. So I think those are some decent weapons for Matt Ryan. Let's see. They lost Vic Beasley Jr. in free agency, so there's going to be some holes on defense, man. And
they picked up Dante Fowler, though.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think this might be Dan Quinn's last hurrah, man.
How does he still have a job? I mean, I just sit around and wonder sometimes how some of these people still have jobs. I mean, he lost his offensive coordinator and he has been trash ever since that Super Bowl. And these moves that they've made, I'm on the opposite end of you. I don't think any of these moves are good. Yeah, you lost Devontae Freeman, but you pick up Todd Gurley. I don't know how much better Todd Gurley is than Devontae Freeman, because he might be good early on, but apparently with this arthritis in his knee, you can't use him that often. That's why they were trying to protect him with the Rams. If you use him too much, you literally might not have him at the end of the season. You lost Austin Hooper, who was very big for the game plan most of the year, and you didn't even do great this year. Yeah, you lose. You pick up Dante Fowler, Vic Beasley. Let's just wash them out. You lose Desmond Trufant. You lost one of your better offensive linemen, and you had the biggest splash is Todd Gurley, somebody that a lot of people believe is on his last leg. I don't think this team upgraded. I mean, if Calvin Ridley gets a lot better, which he could. I mean, he could just have a breakout and be Julio, and you have Julio and Calvin Ridley on both sides, and Todd Gurley could turn into the 2017 version of himself, and Matt Ryan could be, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of coulds in here, but if I'm just looking at, by the last 2 seasons that all these players have had, I don't know if I think this team is better.
We shall see,
this team
man.
might be worse.
They definitely had a rough go of it last year, man. Wasn't impressive at all. But I think it's going to come down to the Saints and the Bucs, man. I mean, we get to see Brady versus Breeze twice a year, so that's exciting. They move on from Teddy Bridgewater, but, you know, you got Breeze, you got Taysom Hill, you got Alvin Kamara, you got Michael Thomas, man. I mean, you get Malcolm Jenkins back, so more or less everything stays the same down there. You get Emmanuel Sanders, so that's going to be definitely a shootout. That's one date that I'm going to circle on the calendar. Bucks versus Saints. I think that's going to be a really good one to watch.
I'm going to tell you this, though. Malcolm Jenkins don't have that defensive line to hide behind anymore. Michael Jenkins is my guy, but he's a lot like their Weapon X, Brian Dawkins, at the end of his career. They can hit hard. They can make some outstanding plays in front of them, but they're going to get their ass burnt in that secondary. I think we are really sleeping on that Panthers team, man. I think Panthers are going to make a big jump this year with the stability of Teddy Bridgewater, someone that's willing to use CMC, someone that's willing to lean on the run game to check down and can take that over the top with Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore, because I think DJ Moore is going to have a breakout season this year, too.
He's one of the sleeper picks of that draft, man. I think DJ Moore, Maryland product, man. He gets better and better each year, man. He's like Kelvin Benjamin with work ethic to me. That's what he is.
But Kelvin Benjamin was kind of fat. Like he's
like
shape.
in shape fat.
You know what I mean? He's more of a
like
running back and a
fat.
wide receiver. Yeah, but your boy was fat.
It'll be interesting,
Kevin
man.
Benjamin was
I think
fat,
this
fat,
season,
bro.
and then as we approach the draft, man, I know we got to break that down, man. Once we get there, but free agency was off to a rocket start, man. I mean, for all the shit that's been going on lately, man, free agency gave me life. I know it gave sports fans everywhere life and a glimmer of hope, man. Had us on the ropes for a minute, man, but it was really good to see, man, and it's not over yet.
A bit of normalcy. There's a bit of a normalcy in this chaotic world.
So
man.
we still got some folks up in the air, man. Cam Newton, of course, we've mentioned him throughout the whole episode. Jameis Winston, Everson Griffin, Jadeveon Clowney, just to name a few. I mean, what are your thoughts on the remaining free agents that we have, man? Where you see them going?
Man, I know that I think this is one of those markets where you're waiting for two chips to fall, and I guess you're kind of slightly waiting on Yannick Ngakoue to he signed his franchise tender, and there's some teams still in play for him. I think that's kind of affecting Clowney's market also, because if you can get him, do you want Clowney? Clowney's kind of injury prone, but I think once Clowney falls and once Cam Newton falls, then you're going to see a lot more action. But I think it's kind of on hold right now because those are the biggest chips to fall. The wide receiver market is kind of, you know what I'm saying? I was arguably the best wide receivers, Robbie Anderson and Devin Funchess. Defense have been picked over. So it's really coming down to Clowney and Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton, I don't believe the Chargers, man. I don't believe they good with Tyrod Taylor. I think the Chargers go get Cam Newton, man. And Clowney, I think he goes back to Seattle.
I agree with you on Clowney going back to Seattle. I see Cam Newton going to the Denver Broncos, man. That'd be a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good spot, too. I mean, they went and got Melvin Gordon. So, I mean, it works, and that's the kind. They want to run the ball, push the ball. He's perfect for them. I just think the Chargers have more to lose. I think they'll be more aggressive.
I don't really see Cam going to the Patriots, man. I mean, yeah, it would be something to see, man, but I don't see Cam doing that, man. I don't really see Cam going to New England, but stranger things have happened. I think Denver would be the best fit for him. Just play style and just chemistry of the team, man. I think it'd work.
The one reason why I don't think it would be Denver is just because I think that he's also looking to get paid. Like, Cam Newton's never been cheap. He's never going to go somewhere for a Joe Flacco contract or 1 year, $15 million, something like that. I think he's looking for some type of long-term security because he's business smart. If you look at, I don't think Denver Broncos a team like that because John Elway doesn't want to commit guaranteed money because he understands you can't keep a defense together. You can't keep a legit defense together with committing that much money to a quarterback. He's been reluctant to do it. I don't think he does it now. I don't think the Patriots are going to commit that much money to Cam Newton. So it just leaves teams like the Chargers, the Dolphins, or the Chargers or the Dolphins are like teams that I'm looking for. I would love to see
that's my
the
sleeper
Dolphins
pick
go
for
out there
Cam
and make
Newton.
a splash.
I think either Denver or Miami.
Yeah, because I think Miami would go out there and pay him. Because if you got a choice, you get Cam Newton or you can get Tua. I'll just go ahead and pay Cam Newton. They got a ton of cap room. They bench
building
ass.
block, man. I mean, you see, the Carolina Panthers were ass before he got there.
And this is another reason why Dallas got to quit
Dak
fucking
Prescott.
around with. They got to quit fucking around with that because now you get Ryan Tannehill making $118 million and $62 guaranteed. If Cam go get signed by Miami to like 32, 33 a year, then next year when Dak gets this $38 million franchise tag, Dak gonna get $43 million.
Especially if he plays
Stephen
well,
Jones
too.
being stupid.
Especially if he plays well.
Exactly. If Cam gets you get Cam, you get Tannehill, you get all these contracts,
Man,
bro.
was
You
a
gotta
rumor
sign
about
that. Quit fucking around.
Jadeveon Clowney going to the Cowboys, but I'm taking that shit with a grain of salt. That ain't gonna happen, man. Nah, he ain't.
Bro wants $20 million a year. It's a rumor that Yannick gonna go to the Eagles, but I'm not holding my breath. They're not giving up a first and a $200 million contract.
I guess it just leaves Everson Griffin, man, which I don't know. You know, I mean, kind of a shock move that they let him go. I mean, do they try to bring him back on a reduced salary? I don't see him really taking a pay cut.
And if you do, you probably go to a team that you think is a lot farther along. Because I don't think that team believes in Kirk Cousins. I mean, you saw, if you really respected your quarterback, Diggs wouldn't have made that comment right after he got his contract extension. I think a lot of those players don't like Kirk Cousins, and I think that the coach and the GM was being stubborn with
and this isn't
signing Kirk
just
Cousins.
a Redskins thing or even a Michigan State Spartans thing, but two quarterbacks that I thought were super overrated were Kirk Cousins and Connor Cook. Connor Cook didn't last in the league too long. He flamed out of the XFL. I've never seen what was so special about Kirk Cousins at all.
I hate Kirk Cousins, man. That's why I keep saying that at the point where Kirk Cousins worked the same plan that Russell Wilson worked, and now he's in a situation where he has a team that has to mandatory give him like this extension because there's no better prospects. You cannot tell me that Dak Prescott isn't about to get some type of stupid bag that Dallas fans aren't going to like. Teddy Bridgewater just worked his way back into like a $25 million contract. The quarterbacks in the NFL are trash. There's hard for you to name 15 consistent quarterbacks in the league. If you have any type of value at quarterback, Marcus Mariota go and he plays well behind Derek Carr, you could see him getting $25 million next year. That's how crazy
Especially
the quarterback
with the new CBA,
situation
man, it's gonna
is.
get crazier and crazier. Especially when Pat Mahomes get paid, shit's about to hit the fan, man.
Man,
Guaranteed.
Pat might get 50.
Gotta be
guaranteed, all guaranteed, $250 million.
especially if they go
all
to
of it
another Super
guaranteed.
Bowl and go back to back. So that leaves us with
possibly
Mr.
do
Winston, man. Crab Leg Jameis himself, man. The public's bandit. I think Pittsburgh is the best spot for him, so he can sit behind Big Ben, be under Mike Tomlin. I think that's why I see him going. I'm gonna hold out hope for Jameis, man. I'm rooting for you, bruh, but you can't be fucking up. But he got the LASIK now, man. So I think LASIK makes the difference in everything, bro.
They literally need to burn his eyeballs out and put new ones in it for him to be able to see anything.
So we'll see if Big Ben goes down. Hey, I don't think Jameis Winston would take it too kindly taking a helmet to the head, though.
I think the James ends up in with the Pats. That's my guess. I think it's gonna be a surprise move. I think Bill Belichick thinks that he's smarter than everybody. I can fix him. They got Josh McDaniels there. People forget, really good quarterbacks coach. If you can just keep him under control, rely on the run game, and just make him make half the bad decisions. Even this is the craziest part. If Jameis throws for 30 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, he has a great season. Just don't do that. Just don't throw for 30 and 30, and you're probably going to have a great year.
If Bill Belichick turns Jameis Winston into a Super Bowl winning quarterback, I give it to him. He the greatest coach that ever lived.
Josh McDaniels probably can go wherever he want and get
Josh
a coach fired.
McDaniels will be a coach and a GM if they make Jameis Winston an all-pro Super Bowl winning NFL MVP caliber quarterback.
How much money could Josh McDaniels get from a college team if he wins the Super Bowl with Jameis Winston? Man. And he just opens himself up to college. How much does Michigan pay him? Did they go to Josh?
He'll get
Harbaugh?
saving money or Dabo Sweetie money, but he'll at least get $7 million a year.
Bro, you can get more than that in the NFL if you can make Jameis
Winston
win
the Super Bowl. College, man, I can see him get about 7 or 8 a year. Depends on what conference he goes to.
Bro, you can get more than that. If you make Jameis Winston win the Super Bowl, I'm fully confident you can come in with 8.5
at least
off top.
Yeah, man. Hey, it's been a good show, man. We had a lot to unpack, man. Free agency kept us busy, so we had a lot to talk about. Thank you guys out there for rocking with me and Big Facts Reed, man. The first episode of Fumblerooski, man. We appreciate it, the support. Just continue to listen. Reed, before we go, man, you got anything you want to plug, bruh?
Man, it's the same old stuff, man. All content can be found at www.2smart network. We're working on building the site, building new content. We're trying to put more and more content, especially during this COVID-19 crisis, trying to give you as much content as possible to listen to. You can always find us on Instagram if you need any of the links or the plugs or the clips. We try to stay active on there every week. But yeah, it's at #2smart network. You can also find KP.
So
Give me yours.
_mighty_carry at Instagram.com. Also, we got the Sexy Suburban Dad going up. Episode 3 should be dropping pretty soon. Be sure to check out the Two Smart Dummies. And when the smoke clears, as B. Reed mentioned, man, you can find all of that on the twosmartnetwork.com. We appreciate the support, man. Support the movement and support the grind. Reed, it's been a blast as usual, man. For B. Reed, this has been KP, Fumblerooski, a football podcast. We out. Later.